Look, it's a team of gold. What's up, dudes and dudettes in the internet? My name's Seth, and we are back in for Trove to Trove. Today, we're going to be talking about some leaked information. Of course, it was done by the devs. Information about the subclasses, folks. And oh man, it is so much more than we anticipated. Most of all, what we're going to be doing today is kind of just showing off a couple quick images of what the devs ended up showing off in the last live stream, and then a couple speculations that we've been having a lot behind the scenes. So let's just get right into it. First of all, I want to show you this image right here. This is going to end up being the new class selection screen, which they are working on currently. As you can see near the top of the screen, you can actually sort your characters by their level and their power rank now. And also there's going to be the little badges for their power rank, and it's very simple, very easy, very intuitive, a much better character selection screen. And the other thing about it is just, you know, it's not ideal. It kind of feels like a middle ground, because normally what players have been hankering for a long time is a way that we could actually see all the gear that we have and take it off of a character, and maybe even possibly the gems. But the fact that this is the new character screen that they're working on right now for the subclasses means that this is probably the best we're gonna get. And I mean, at least with the power rank, you can kind of gauge, okay, this character clearly has stellar gear and good gems. But the important thing, if you didn't already notice, is on the Lunar Lancer picture, we have subclass Gunslinger. Meaning that the Lunar Lancer actually has the Gunslinger as his subclass. No idea what the ability is going to end up being, but in this next image right here, we have the Dracolite, or the Draconis as I like to call him, using the #1 ability of the Ice Sage. So that means he's going to have the 25% movement speed buff, and he's going to end up having the extra defense and everything like that. So potentially a real game changer, the fact that we're going to actually be able to use other class abilities on another character. Now, I don't know how this is going to end up working. Is it going to end up being every type of ability that you're going to have access to? Is it only going to be one specific ability? Because something like this, you could very easily see being used on melee characters and on staff using characters and long range characters and stuff like that. You're not going to be able to, like, I don't see it where you would be able to actually use the ultimate of another character. I think that would ultimately just make the game a bit too broken. And yes, that was a weird ultimate pun. But most of all, just the abilities that you can actually take. That's the thing that I'm curious about. Are we going to be able to actually take the Neo Ninja Shuriken, for example, and put it on the Shadow Hunter? Or is it going to end up being preset abilities that you're going to be able to take, and we're not going to be able to pick and choose any of it? However, the other thing too that I'm kind of speculating is with the Draco here, is the ability even going to replace any of the current abilities that you have on the class? Because if you would actually take the Ice Sage's #1 ability and put it on the Draco, then the Draco wouldn't be able to throw bombs anymore, and the class would actually end up being useless, right? So if we go back to the first image where the Lunar Lancer has the subclass of Gunslinger, I'm assuming that Draco had the subclass, if we go back to this image, of the Ice Sage, and then that ability is just there. But it has to be triggered somehow, because there's no way that they're going to have it so that the ice barrier is going to just be around your character non-stop. I don't know, but in any case, it's very, very exciting stuff, folks. Like, seriously. But seriously, like, it's like, I can't even believe the amount of, like, speculation and excitement that's gone around just something so simple. So I hope you're all as excited as I am, because that means that it's not just going to be a simple passive ability, because maybe it is. Maybe you just take an ability from a character and it becomes a passive. I don't know, because if we look at this last image right here, and I want to also point out that in this picture, that is the lunar costume for the Revenant. I've talked about this in other videos. I want to talk about it now just briefly, that there is lunar costumes of all of the classes in the game. This is why I've been talking about for such a long time to save your lunar souls, because when that Shadow Tower update ends up hitting, that's going to include the subclasses, gem rerolling, and all that stuff. I'm assuming it's also going to end up having all of the lunar costumes, right? So save your lunar souls. Apparently there is going to be either costume mystery boxes that'll randomly give you costumes, costumes, or maybe you'll just be crafting them straight outright. But the thing that's exciting about this picture more than the costume is that little fairy ally. And I know that some of you are thinking, oh, that's just a new ally that's not added to the game. No, no, no. Because if you look behind the Revenant's spear, he clearly has cotton candy as his selected ally. So this fairy, it tells me that this fairy character is something tied to the subclass ability, in which case this is something new. You know, this is not an ability that any of the other characters ends up having. So my speculation immediately is that maybe the Revenant took the phase passive of not taking damage and doing 3 times damage, and maybe they actually have this custom little fairy character kind of be around it so that you kind of have an idea, so that other players have an indicator of what your subclass build is going to be. And that's kind of the biggest thing that's so exciting about all this. I could be dead wrong about all of that. It could even be the Draco ally, just maybe it looks like a fairy when you use it with the Revenant or something like that. But if we go back to the Draco picture, you can see that they didn't even bother. I mean, this is the early infancy of this. They're kind of just showing it off and getting a little bit of hype for it. But the fact that it still is the ice video effects around the Draco, rather than being the fire video effects from the Fire Ice Sage costume, I think that they could stand to change that. Because I don't think that they're going to go the extra mile and make custom video effects for other classes using different costumes of other abilities, right? Like, it just doesn't make sense. So, again, with this Revenant picture and this little Fae thing, the thing that's got me curious and me most excited about it is the fact that this means that Trove is finally going to actually have builds. Because up until this point, folks, and I don't mean a insults towards the game or anything like that. Like, I'm not just trying to hate on the game or anything. I love this game. But for the longest time, I've had to kind of say in my videos about like different builds and stuff like that, because people are really curious about it. People like to think that this game is complicated. It's not. Up until this point, until these subclasses finally get into the game, there is just damage build. There's 2 builds in the game, damage and tank, and that's it. And because of that, I was always very reluctant to say builds when it comes to Trove. Now, if you can mix and match certain class abilities on certain characters, that's just going to be insane. I think you're only going to be able to have 1 subclass available at a time, meaning that you're not going to be able to mix and match like all the abilities from all the other characters. And again, I don't think that we're going to be able to actually have all the different, like we're not going to be able to pick and choose the abilities that we want to put on whatever character replacement slot as we want. I don't know about that. So if we close the image and go back to the game right here, for example, the Shadowhunter's right-click ability, if we could, all of us would swap that out for anything else, because the right click becomes absolutely useless when you end up getting the class gem ability, right? So how cool would that be if the Shadowhunter could end up getting the right click of the Neon Ninja? Maybe he could end up having the Shuriken and would be really, really crazy. And if that Revenant picture is actually tied to the phase passive ability, while that would be absolutely useless on a melee character, think of actually having that 3 times damage on the Shadowhunter or on the Gunslinger. It would suddenly just throw these characters completely over the top. And also, I want to make the point about this as well, because lots of people always ask me about this, and I do think, I am confident that these subclass abilities are going to potentially end up making a lot of characters see their potential to a whole other level, right? Because hashtag confirm, folks, they are working on U10. Not necessarily that they've got it developed or anything like that right now, but they are going to be adding U10. The devs have actually talked about that, and with that, you know, the power rank required, the damage numbers required are going to be that much more through the roof, because it's going to have to be something over U9. And that's another reason why I think they're getting this subclass thing underway and kind of prepared, because seriously, dude, like this is really exciting. Probably the most excited I've ever been for an update for Trove, because if you look at Trove's entire like design, it's like we've seen the Mantle of Power update as the only real update that ended up actually changing the fundamental of the game. It actually let us go above level 20, but then also actually have different stats and random generation numbers and stuff like that. Now, you know, that it ultimately ends up being the cost of what makes most people quit. But with that Shadow Tower update, we're also going to end up having, you know, and the subclasses, we're also going to end up having the gem re-rolling, which is also going to be a big deal because it means that people won't have to quit because the bad generation on their gems. They're going to just be able to roll it until you get a perfect one, right? And most of all, though, the subclasses, like, that is just... It has me so excited to see that we're going to actually be able to use another character's abilities, even if it's only a preset few. Because it wouldn't make sense to me, like, it's like, what are you gonna do? Take the Lunar Lancer's right-click ability or his #1 to another character? And even then, like, the fact that every character is probably going to be able to subclass another means that it has to be an ability that every character would be able to use if they go that route of having a preset, because I don't think that you're going to be able to choose any ability you want from the Candy Barb and use that on the Neon Ninja. I don't think you're going to be able to take the Candy Barb's ult and throw it onto the Neon Ninja, because I don't think that the devs are going to be moving in a direction where a class can become useful only to use its abilities. That would be really, really forward thinking, and it would be really, really awesome if they did end up doing that, but I don't think that the devs want, you know, the Barb to end up becoming useless because all you want to level him up for is to take his ultimate ability, right? Or to take his right click onto a character that just is stronger and has better damage numbers because of the calculations of the other abilities, right? Now, time will tell what ends up happening, but the other thing that has me curious about whether or not, you know, how much work is actually going to be involved with all of this in regards to the devs is because if it isn't a passive, if it's some ability that you have to actually activate on your character, that means that potentially we're going to see one ability taken away, or maybe we're going to finally actually see something more on our hotbar down at the bottom, but I wouldn't really think so. You know, it wouldn't really make that much sense to new players to have an empty slot on your hotbar for a subclass ability. It just, I don't really see it. So I'm thinking that maybe it is just going to end up being a passive ability that you can take from the other characters, but it's like with the Draco and the Ice Stage ability, that's the thing. Is that ability going to constantly be on the character? Is it going to be on a cooldown? Is it going to be recharged and auto cast? Because that would be like, that's where I'm really interested to see where this ends up going, because otherwise, if it is an active ability, if the Draco has to actively press a button to activate the Ice Sage's ability or any of the other character abilities, that would mean that they would have to have custom animations for every character in the game to use every one of the different abilities. That's why I don't think it's going to be as complex as we would like it to be. I don't think that they're going to end up going that far and that crazy. But again, back to that other image, Lunar Lancer using the Gunslinger's ability, what could that end up being? Because there's no way that it's his passive, because his passive has to do specifically with the Gunslinger's charge shot. And again, I don't think that you're going to be able to use an ultimate of a character, because then potentially you could end up just making another character super duper strong, unless it ends up replacing the ultimate. Like, you know, with the Neon Ninja and the Candy Barb again. We would love to have the Candy Barb's ult on the Neon Ninja. And forget the Neon Ninja's ultimate, at least for the late game anyways. But then also it begs the question of which abilities you can end up swapping, because with the Shadow Hunter, again, we would love to see his right click gone. Or, you know, it's like, would you end up taking the #1 ability from the Shadow Hunter and putting it on our character, which could also be another interesting build for a Candy Barb in Shadow Towers, because then you could actually pull the enemies in, but you could also end up throwing down a snare trap as well. In any case, folks, I think this video has gone on long enough with all the speculations involved, but I just wanted to get a little bit of hype going here because I thought that this was really, really cool, and I want to hear all your opinions about it as well. So leave a comment in the comment section down below if you have an idea of where this is actually going and what you think would actually not only be a cool idea, but also just kind of like, am I missing something here? You know, is there something where it's like, oh no, dude, it's just gonna be this, very simply put. I don't know. But in any case, thank you so much for watching, everybody. Very much appreciated. This update is probably going to end up taking a couple months before it actually ends up coming out, because in June, they're gonna have the Megalithic update, which I'm gonna have another video talking about that. In any case, thank you again for watching. Don't forget to like, share, favorite, and subscribe for more daily content. Sign on, stay epic, everybody.